Hello all, welcome to Anand Learning Studio. Today we are going to dive into one of the most fundamental concepts in Python programming, that is functions. Whether you are a beginner or looking to brush up on your skills, this video is for you. So what are functions in Python? What exactly are functions? Functions are block of code that performs a specific task. Okay, so you can write a piece of code and you can reuse it again and again. Suppose you have to create a task and you need that task to be done multiple times in your code. So instead of creating the same block of code again and again, what you do, you take the help of a function. So you create a function, you put that block of code into that function, and then you can call it. So function is like a kind of they help us to organize our code, make it reusable and improve its readability. Okay, so think of functions as a mini program within our own program that you can call upon whenever you need to perform a specific task. So you can define a function, put the task which you want it to perform, and then you can call it. So till now you must have understood that function is having two parts. One is the definition part and second is the calling part. So when you define a function, you basically create the skeleton of function, assign the task which it needs to perform, and that's it. But the task will not be executed until unless you call the function. So function is defined, and then in order for the function to get into execution, you need to call the function. So let's start with the basic syntax of a function. In Python, we define a function using the def keyword followed by the function name and the parenthesis. Okay, inside the parenthesis, we can specify any parameters the function might take. The function body is indented and contains the code that runs when the function is called. So let's see what how to create a function. So you have to use the keyword called def followed by the function name. So suppose the function name is greet, okay, and then followed by the parenthesis. Okay, now this function will be having a block of code. So this block of code is the task which this function will be performing. Okay, this block of code is the task which it will be performing. This needs to be indented. So in an IDE, obviously whenever you will be putting a colon and hitting enter, it will auto indent it for you. But suppose if you are writing in a notepad or something like that, you need to take care of indentation on your own. So maybe you can indent it with the four spaces or tab, whatever is suitable for you. Okay, and the entire block will be the same in the indentation pattern. Then there will be a optional docstring thing. So suppose the docstring is like explaining what this function is going to do in pure English words. Suppose you have written your program and now your program will be read, or maybe it will be used by multiple persons. Now, when you are writing a program, you have your own mindset. You may use your own variable names, you may use your own function name. How the other persons will be knowing that okay, this program or this function is intended to do this part. This you can achieve using the docstring part. So what docstring is kind of simple text where you are going to put an explanation what this function is going to do, explain all the parameters which it has. If it is raising any kind of exception, you can put up that part also. If it is returning anything, so it is kind of a block where you will be explaining what this function is all about. So suppose here I will be just saying this function prints a greeting message. Okay, now what here I'm just keeping it a simple, and now suppose I have a print statement called hello everyone, welcome to our studio. Okay, now this function is just a greet function. Let's execute it. Now you have seen that this function even after execution did not print it hello everyone, welcome to Anand Learning Studio. No, why? Because here the def is a keyword used to define this function. Greet is the name of the function. Parenthesis is the skeleton which needs to be followed as a part of it to qualify as a function. Then we have a docstring. This is just an additional information about the function. This will not be executed by the program. This is just supplying information. Now this print statement is what exactly the block of function is. This should be printed out. This function should, when we call this function, this will be output. So you can see we have created a function, but until we call this function, it will not execute it blocks. So if you see greet, it is saying that there is this function under the main program called greet, but it has not printed the output. So in order to call this function, you have to put the name of the function followed by the parenthesis. If it is a parameterized function, which we will be going to discuss in the down the line, if it is a parameterized function, then you have to pass in the value of the parameters also. So let's call this function now, and now you can see it has actually executed the function. Okay, so you can define a function using the def keyword followed by the name followed by the parenthesis, and then in order to call the function, just the name of the function followed by the parenthesis, and if any parameters are there, you have to define the value for those parameters. So now let's understand functions parameter. So suppose here in this program only, if I want to greet a particular user, so suppose if I am logging, it will say hello Anand. If someone else is logging, it will say hello XYZ or hello ABC, whatever is the person's name. So now how to do that? I cannot create multiple functions for each of the user. The username can vary. So this function needs an additional input called the name of the user who has logged in. And how we will be knowing it? We will be knowing it when we are calling the function. Actually, when the user is using the greet function. So it will know that which user has called this greet function. So whenever we have a requirement, like okay, I have to create a function which will be giving me a varying output, but this output we will be knowing upfront when calling this function, we can assign those things as a parameters to this function. Okay. So here let's do that def greet, and now suppose I want to take the name of the person or the user who is there, and now for this sake of simplicity, I'm just not putting the docstring. It's an optional thing. I will not be putting in the further um, uh, functions in our explanation. You already know what it is doing and it is supposed to do. So now let's do print, and then now whatever is the name. So here f is like a kind of formatted string. So formatted string helps you to put the value of any variables into a string. So this name will be having a value. It is not a value. It is not a name as a string. It is name as a variable. We don't want to put hello name. We want to put hello and whatever is the value inside that name. So this f thing, this is formatted string. You can inside one string only, you can just design it to construct a string. You can put up your string, and wherever you want to replace a variable, you have to put that under this curly brackets. Okay, now let's execute it. Again, it has created a function called greet, and it is expecting a parameter called name. So now whenever we have to pass a value, whenever we will be calling this function greet, now we need to pass an argument also. That argument will be the value for this parameter. So now let's see greet, and then either you can say name equals to whatever you want to put, like Anand. It will print hello Anand, or you can simply say, since it is having only one parameter, even if you'll pass it only the name, it will print that out. Now why this is important, let me explain. So suppose if you have multiple things like name and age, gender, multiple parameters are there, then this way of calling is a better way, because if you are passing only the values, you need to maintain the sequence also. So after name, suppose age is there, then you cannot assign the value of age before name if you are calling it this way. If you are calling it with the parameter name followed by the value, then the sequence doesn't matter, the order doesn't matter, you can call it anyway age before name. But in this way, you have to pass in the exact same sequence the parameters are defined. So it's a better practice to call it using the parameter's name also, so that it does not create any confusion and there is no chance of error. So this is how we create the parameters in a function. Now, what suppose I want to return this function. Here till now what we are doing, we are just printing out the statements. In real life you will not be printing out the statements, you will be using the output of a function. So suppose a function is there, it will be doing some task and you want to take the result of the task. So you will not be printing that out to some console, you want to use that result. So you can achieve that using a return statement. So till now both these functions are simply printing out, but they are not returning anything. Return statement will help you to return the output, whatever is the computation, whatever you want to return from a particular function. Where it will return? It will return to the caller. So whenever you will be calling the function, if a function is returning anything, that returned value will be passed on to the caller. So let's do like this. So like I will create add two numbers A and B. Okay, and what I want to do, I this time I don't want to print the result of these two numbers. I want to return the value for the sum of these two numbers. Okay, so now in this case, what will happen? It will create a function. It will expect two arguments for A and B, and then it will sum up those arguments, value of those arguments, and then it will return where to the caller. So if I like now in this particular time, I need to either put it inside a print statement, or I will have to use some kind of variable to store the result which is returned from this function. So now when I will call this function add two numbers, and suppose the numbers are like 7 and 8, now this will return me 15, and where this 15 will be, I will have to hold that. So this will be cast under this res variable. So this that will be basically assigned to res variable. Now you can use this res variable wherever you want to. Okay, maybe in for the particular, so suppose this res needs to pass on to another function or anything, you can use res as it is. So you can say suppose print res like this. So that's what a return function does. Now, sometimes it happens that you want to keep some default values of the parameters to a function. Like suppose a user is logging in, okay, and in this greet function, every time you want a name, you are expecting a name, but sometimes it might happen that a person has not saved his name. Okay, so in that case, it will give you none. Okay, and handling none, it's better to assign some default value that okay, if I'm not getting any value, I will display this information or I will use this information. So that is called assigning default values to a parameters. So in this case also, in this def greet function, where I'm passing in name, where I'm creating a name as a parameter, I can assign a default value called unknown. And what this unknown will be doing, if let's do this print, okay, f hello and then name. Okay, so now whenever I will be calling this function, if I will pass in any name, it will print out that name, it will override the default value. Okay, but if I have not passed in any name, if simply I will call the greet function, then it will give me the default value. What if I would not have kept this default value and my function would be expecting a parameter, and then if you will call this function without passing any value, it will give you an error that okay, greet function was expecting one required positional argument called name and you have not passed in any value for that. So it's better to keep some default values for your program if you know that okay, this can be the default values. If not, then you have to obviously handle it using some kind of exception handling, which we will be learning in upcoming videos. So now there is one more thing in function. So what is there? We can have a variable length of arguments. Okay, so I may get to add numbers. So in the above function, I am only adding two numbers. But what if a user might want to add two numbers, three numbers, five numbers, 10 numbers, something like that. So that how to handle it? I cannot create 10 different programs to handle different parameters. No. So that we can handle it using star args or star kw args. So I'll quickly cover the star args here, and maybe I will create a shorts video for star kw args sometime. So sum of numbers, and then now the parameter will be star args. Okay, this star and args is telling the function that okay, be prepared to accept variable length of arguments. Okay, now there's no fixed number of arguments. You may get none, you may get one, you may get two, or you may not get at all. You may get multiple 10, 12, anything. That is variable length of argument. So now what I will be doing, I will be doing sum of args. Whatever arguments you are passing, I will be just summing them up. So if I will call this function now sum of numbers with suppose 1 comma 2 comma 3, it will add these three numbers. And okay, I need to pass it print statement. Okay, I missed to return this part, return sum of args. Okay, and now sorry, so it was summing it up, but neither I was printing it out from here nor I was returning it, so I was not getting any value. So I can now I will get, okay, now I will get the value. Okay, 3 to 5 and 1 is 6. Similarly, sum of numbers followed by, like suppose 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe multiple. Now also you will get the correct sum, whatever is the sum. So you have seen here we are handling different number of arguments in one function. We have created one function which can accept variable length of argument, and we have handled them all. Okay, so to recap, we have covered the basic of Python functions, including how to define them, use the parameter, how to return the values, setting up the default parameters, and handling a variable length of arguments. We have also explored what is the value addition of keeping a documentation for our functions with the help of Docstrings. Okay, so functions are a powerful tool in Python, and mastering them will greatly enhance your coding skills. It is a must to know thing in Python. So I encourage you to practice writing your own functions to reinforce what you have learned today. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment with any questions, and don't forget to subscribe for more programming tutorials. Thank you so much for watching, and you can check out my channel for more videos. Thank you.